Hey guys, this is Frank Yecker, and you're listening to Submission Radio.
Hey, this is Rich Franklin.
What's up, everybody? This is Chris Lieben. This is Diego Sanchez. Randy Couture.
Alistair Overeem.
Hi, this is Stephen Bonner.
This is Don Fry.
Hey, I'm Phil, Mr. Wonderful Davis.
TJ Dillashaw.
You're listening to Submission Radio.
Submission Radio.
Submission Radio.
Submission Radio.
You're listening to Submission Radio.
Welcome to Submission Radio, episode 169. 69. It is the 29th of August. Dennis Grove here with Kasper Rosalowski. The Spicy Boys are back with episode 169. Cas, I feel like because it is quite a good number, we've delivered with guests this week.
That's right, 169 or 69, dinner for two, as is known, as is known in the old household. It is. I'm excited, man. I'm excited. Coming off a terrible sleep, but I'm high on guests and sexy names. We got Brett Okamoto joining us, the man from ESPN himself, to kick off this discussion segment. Going to be looking back at this past weekend in MMA. Going to be looking at UFC 228, Woodley versus Till. Going to be asking the big tough questions. No, probably not. Maybe we will. Also talking about UFC 229, so I'm excited about that. We've also got Curtis Blaydes on the show, Stephen Thompson and Kevin Lee. Sexy guests all around. Curtis Blaydes, last he was talking about fighting Stipe Miocic. Now he's fighting Francis Ngannou. A very intriguing rematch. Got the hot exclusive. We're going to get the sexy goss from Curtis Blaydes, so there's a lot to talk to him about there. Stephen Thompson, haven't heard from the man in a long time. People are saying he's fighting Robbie Lawler on the first ESPN card of this new deal. He's saying it's not even close. Going to speak to him about that. And of course, who better to speak to about Woodley versus Till? He's fought both men. That's coming up in about a week, so we want to chat to him about that. Also, Kevin Lee starting his training camp for UFC 229. The opponent? Unknown. He's tweeting things about Justin Gaethje. There's reports that he may be fighting Iaquinta. There's a lot to talk to him about. Obviously, talk about this whole Dillon Danis thing, UFC 229, Conor versus Khabib. I'm excited, man. More excited than I've been in a while. And every week I'm pretty excited, but today just feels extra special. Must be because of that lucky number, 169.
Yeah, that's it. It's going to be a big show. And a quick reminder before we get right into it, because it is an action-packed episode. We don't want to hold you guys for too long. But if you haven't liked us on Facebook, give us a like. Facebook.com/Submission Radio AUS. We are on Instagram, so give us a follow. I'm going to do a deep dig into the Submission Radio files this week and find a picture that nobody's seen before of me and Kasper doing some coverage on one of our trips down to the UFC in America. So jump on and give it a follow before I do that. Also, a lot of fun things, fun gifts, fun little things that we like to put up, fun videos. And of course, give us a follow on Twitter @Submission Radio. Our messages are open. You guys can message us, let us know how your day's going, give us any questions, feedback, anything that you guys would like to tell us. We are there to listen to you. So jump on, give us a follow, give us a like, and yeah, engage with us. We love chatting to you guys on social media.
Yeah, and I love chatting to you guys, or we love chatting to you guys in the YouTube comments. I feel like it's probably the funnest, best place to go and chat to us and chat amongst yourselves. There's a lot of interaction there. I feel like there was a little bit of a dip for a while. There was like a dark period, the dark ages, not a lot of comments, not a lot of interactions, just barren wastelands and those things that always roll through the deserts that I can't remember what they're called now. Tumbleweeds. That's the one. Yeah. Now it's hot. The comments are on fire. People are commenting things like first. I'm always curious who gets the first comment. And I always feel like I have to reward them, and not reward them. I always feel like I have to say something and acknowledge their awesome accomplishment.
There's celebrities in the comment section usually.
Jordan Schlansky, big fan of Jordan Schlansky. I love what he does with Conan. Harvey Weinstein, regular listener on the show.
Yeah.
Listening from prison. There's a lot of people listening and a lot of people commenting, and we try and basically respond to almost all of them. If you say some things about fighters, things that may not be nice, I mean, it's okay. You can say whatever you want. We're not really going to maybe join into that discussion because we're not going to be throwing shade at anyone. But if you say something about the show, have some feedback, could be good or bad, it doesn't really matter. We'll respond to you guys, and it's one of my guilty pleasures. I love checking it for like the week after the episode is out, seeing what everybody's saying and just chatting with you guys. It's always a ton of fun. Anyway, without further ado, drop your comments down below. Hit that like button, helps us out a lot. Subscribe on iTunes. Without further ado, our first guest is on the line. Oh, this week, Technique of the Week, back for another week, Tyson Pedro. It's going to be our last Tyson Pedro technique. Very soon, we'll be moving on to our brand new production ones. So, if you want to jump into training, roll up like a boss, rip your opponent's arm off and beat them with the wet end. There'll be nothing stopping you after you watch all the techniques, or at least the latest one coming out with Tyson Pedro. Actually, it is an arm-related one this week with Tyson Pedro, so that's going to be fun. I think you guys will enjoy. Anyway, enough rambling. Our first guest is on the line. I'm pumped. It's a big show. I'm excited. Hopefully you guys are as well. Dennis, you're about to introduce him.
All right, guys. Our next guest is an OG when it comes to MMA media, doing an amazing job covering MMA for ESPN for many, many years. You know him from his great interviews, constant breaking news, and great thoughts on the MMA industry. Brett Okamoto, welcome back to Submission Radio. It's great to have you. He's joining us from his office. You're looking a little bit like a detective on the prowl for a murderer there, Brett. It's dark in the room. Looks like you're trying to figure things out.
Is it dark? No, yeah, it's just sitting in my office, man. Yeah, not doing anything too fancy over here.
Is that a mountain in the background on your screen? What's going on there?
Yeah, so I grew up in Colorado, and now I live in Vegas, which is very different climates, you might say. And so I miss the mountains here and there. So I keep the snowy mountain range on my screensaver when it's like 110 degrees outside.
I love it. It's a great picture. So looking at the world of MMA and sort of looking back at this past weekend, obviously Justin Gaethje getting a tremendous win over James Vick. Just wanted to sort of see what your biggest takeaways were and what you can sort of gather from that performance. Because I guess the thing with Justin Gaethje, MMA being a funny sport where one fight, people are saying, hey, this guy needs to retire. And then a one win away. And then people are saying this guy needs to go for a title shot or is in there in a contention. And people have sort of been looking for that, I guess, change from Justin Gaethje. Is he going to adjust his style? We didn't really see a whole lot of footage for this one, but what did you sort of take away from his win against James Vick?
I mean, you're only as good as your last fight. That's how this sport goes. And I think Gaethje really illustrates that if you think about it. I mean, when the guy came in and fought Michael Johnson 13 months ago in Las Vegas, like, I can remember, first of all, like just the whole MMA world buzzing about how entertaining that fight was. And then when Gaethje went to the press conference, everyone had noticed that Conor McGregor had tweeted about it. He had said that was a fight, and he basically like applauded both guys, Gaethje and Michael Johnson. And, that might not sound like a huge deal. Like, ooh, you got a tweet mentioned from somebody, but Conor McGregor doesn't always tweet about MMA, especially in the last 2 years. And they are in the same weight class. So it just went from a situation where it's like, man, Justin Gaethje, like the world may be his oyster here now that he's in the UFC. And then he had really 2 close fights against Dustin Poirier and Eddie Alvarez and really nothing to hang his head over. But all of a sudden now you're 0-2 in your last 2 fights. And like you guys mentioned, there was, people almost not giving up on Justin Gaethje, but being like, oh, maybe this guy isn't as good as we thought he is. He sure takes a lot of damage. So maybe he doesn't have many miles left on the tires or whatever the case was. And so this was a big win for him. And it was really important for him to get out there and not take any damage in this fight, to put James Vick away after all the trash talk that had led up to it. And now he's sort of in that position again, where it's like, one more killer performance could open a lot of doors for Justin Gaethje. So it's just an example of how quickly the sport can move.
It's fascinating as well because lightweight is just going off at the moment. It just feels like most of the big stars are in lightweight. I've never seen lightweight like this before, Brett. So talk to us about what kind of might make sense for Justin next. You got guys like Kevin Lee, you got guys like, Big Al in there, you got some bigger names up there. Who would you like to see him be fighting next?
This is not going to be a popular answer with fans, and it probably wouldn't be a popular answer with Justin Gaethje because he likes to fight frequently. But I would be pretty tempted if I were Gaethje to just chill for a second. I mean, the guy has fought 4 fights in the last 13 months. You add on training camps, you add on the fact that 3 of those fights were real back and forth. I mean, what is the need to, 3 days after your big, spectacular first round knockout in a main event, like why do you need to then just turn around and try to book the first fight that comes your way? I mean, the great thing about Justin Gaethje is that he can fight anybody, and it's going to be extremely entertaining. He can fight. The UFC could literally announce him with almost anyone on the roster, and people would be excited to see it. So why not let your options kind of percolate a little bit, especially now that Conor McGregor's finally coming back. He's going to be fighting Khabib. We're finally going to get a legitimate UFC lightweight title fight. Tony Ferguson coming back from injury. Kevin Lee, everyone's been throwing that name out there, but I think, he could fight Iaquinta next, and that would just be just fine if you're Justin Gaethje. Like, just chill for a second, see what happens. Depending on what happens with Nate Diaz, I would love to see Nate Diaz fight Justin Gaethje. I think that is a spectacular fight. I don't know if Nate would be interested in that or not. Nate has a pretty high standard of what interests him, but you see what I'm saying? There's just not really a need to like rush into a Kevin Lee fight right now. I think you take a second, test the waters, let your body heal a little bit, and then see what the best option is a few months from now.
Just quickly, while you touch on Nate Diaz and before we go over to UFC 229, what is the latest with Nate Diaz and Dustin Poirier? In your mind, how likely is it that this fight does indeed happen? Because we haven't really seen any I guess, further commitment from Nate Diaz other than his back and forths with Bruce Buffer, tweeting out the other day or the other night that he needed some weed. But do you think this fight actually does happen?
Yeah, I do think the fight happens. You can't say with 100% certainty because it is Nate Diaz, and he has, this code that he lives by, and this isn't the first time where we've heard that he's, upset with the UFC over something. But I think ultimately, at the end of the day, knowing Nate the way that I think I do, he wouldn't have agreed to the fight in the first place if the UFC hadn't met certain demands that he has, and given him a deal and given him an opportunity or a spotlight or a situation that he was happy with, right? I mean, we know for one thing about Nate Diaz is that he knows exactly what he wants, and he's not going to fight for anything less. So if all of that happened prior to, what he's upset with now, and that's that they played that Conor promo at a time when they're announcing his fight, yeah, he's upset, and I'm sure that part of him does want to walk away from this fight, but I have to believe that everything that brought him to the fight in the first place is then going to get him to the fight on November 3rd.
Let's quickly talk about UFC 229, because obviously there's a fascinating fight between Tony Ferguson and Anthony Pettis. And when looking at this fight and this card, it looks like an insurance policy from the UFC if something happens to Khabib or even Conor McGregor in the main event. What have you heard from the UFC in terms of Tony Ferguson being a backup if Khabib falls out, or even if for some reason McGregor doesn't make it? Is it sort of official in the back for them that Tony's the guy to go to?
I wouldn't call it official. I think what you're seeing is what the rest of us are seeing, is that it certainly makes sense. And when you couple that with the fact that the UFC has started to do this pretty frequently, they had Thiago Santos weigh in for the Brad Tavares Israel Adesanya fight over the summer. They had Alexander Volkov weigh in for the Stipe Miocic DC fight. They're having Kamaru Usman weigh in for the Darren Till Tyron Woodley fight in Dallas, a week from now. So when you see them doing things like this, and then Tony Ferguson's in the co-main event, it's easy to connect those dots. I do wonder what would happen if one of those guys would fall out, though, because the fight is just so huge. Depending on why the fight was falling apart, or what was the nature, like if Conor suffered an injury right now, but it was a minor injury and he could turn around and fight at the end of the year, like would they probably just push the fight to the end of the year? Probably.
Yeah.
I think it's always just a case-by-case basis, but it certainly doesn't hurt to have Tony on the card. You wanted Tony to come back, and Tony wanted to be on this card as well, to potentially be a backup and to also keep his name, in that conversation of who's going to face the winner. So I think he's certainly a candidate to be a backup, but I think it would always depend on, what the circumstances are and exactly, what's going on at the time, whether or not the UFC would use him in that way.
Just to quickly jump in, that you mentioned backups. It's very interesting because this week Woodley was sort of talking about the fact that if Till went overweight, he still wouldn't want to fight Usman. He wouldn't want to take the backup fight. But if UFC organizes a quote-unquote backup, is there some kind of line that's being crossed where the champion's not across it or isn't willing to fight them? If you're a guy like Usman, you're like, all right, I'm a backup here, but the champion's not willing to fight me. Does that kind of make sense? Is there something going on that we don't know about? What did you think when you saw Woodley sort of talking about that?
I actually talked to Tyron about that myself on Monday morning. I was talking to him on the phone, and I
just a regular Monday morning chat with the champ, see how everything's going.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously he was on my list of people I needed to talk to soon because he's got a big fight coming up, and we just happened to talk on Monday morning, and I was like, I was like, this is great for like fans. I mean, people buying tickets, and it's like the UFC has went through such a streak of unlucky events where they were missing their main event. Like it seemed like every single time a pay-per-view main event came up, that something was happening to the main event. So you can certainly understand why the UFC is doing this. And I think if you're a fan out there, you're like, this is great. I mean, I'm sick of like the bull crap where I never know if like a main event is going to stay together or not. Like at least now the UFC is trying to do what they can to make sure that there's going to be a fight on Saturday night. I'm going to see at least one of the two guys that I've either spent money to watch the pay-per-view or possibly even bought a ticket to attend live. But I was looking at it from like Tyron's perspective, and I was like, dude, we're not talking about just like some random fight. Like this is a welterweight championship fight, and when you're fighting for a title, not only is a title on the line, but all the pay that comes along with it. I mean, if you're a champion, you make far more money than you do if you're a non-champion. So if you spend 6 weeks preparing for Darren Till, and then all of a sudden he misses weight, and the UFC is like, oh, no problem, we've got a wrestler over here who fights completely different than Darren Till. Like, here you go. Would you be cool with that? And he didn't surprise me whatsoever when he said, I would not be cool with that whatsoever. And he's like, I'm happy for Kamaru Usman. I hope he's getting paid some money to be a backup. And I'll fight Kamaru Usman, but I'll fight him on a full training camp. And I think that's a perfectly reasonable response. Now, when it becomes crunch time and the UFC needs a main event, if something does happen to Darren Till, then, certain conversations will take place, and maybe they'll have to throw a whole lot of money at Tyron Woodley. But I don't think we're in a position like we're in this weird thing where like the UFC is obviously trying to make a habit out of this, and we can understand why. But in practice, is it the best thing to like send a message to your champions that, hey, this belt and all the money that comes along with it that you've worked so hard to get to, you may just have to fight a brand new opponent on 24 hours notice if the circumstances call for it. Like, I don't know if that's like the perfect thing that we all need to get behind.
If Darren Till misses weight going into this fight, should he still have the ability to fight Woodley in the main event? Obviously, the belt, it wouldn't be up for the belt, but what kind of punishment do you think should happen if he misses? I know he's very touchy. I know you're going to be spending some time with Till in a few days leading into UFC 28. He's at 228. He's already said he's very touchy about the subject, so I'm very interested to see how you're going to approach it, Brett. But if he doesn't make the weight, what should be the punishment? It's a tough one.
I mean, obviously he can't fight for the belt. You can't miss weight and then fight somebody, and if you beat him, you're still champion. So that's number one. And number two, if he has to forfeit, I mean, when he missed weight in Liverpool, he offered to give 100% of his purse to Stephen Thompson. He offered 100. He said that in an interview. If he's saying that, and Tyron Woodley's like, I'll fight him, I'll do that. Well, then all's well that ends well, I guess. I mean, if both guys are happy with the situation. I obviously, like everybody else, I hope he makes weight. I am not 100% confident he will. I also don't. It's not like I'm saying I think he'll miss, but a guy with his track record, I mean, you wait to see. I'm certainly interested to see what he looks like on a scale and what the number says. But if he were to miss, I mean, if it really becomes up to Tyron Woodley at that point. If the UFC is still interested in putting the fight together, which I think they would, I still think the fans would want to see it, as disappointed and frustrated as they would be with Darren Till. I think they probably, do you still want to see the fight or not? I think most of them would say yes. So if at that point Darren Till's like, well, fine, Tyron Woodley can have 50% of my purse, and Woodley's cool with that, then I'm cool with it.
Bro, really appreciate your time. We're going to let you go in just a moment to hear about some of the awesome UFC 228 coverage that you've got in store for ESPN. But just quickly, I've been wanting to ask you this for a few minutes now, so we'll circle back quickly to UFC 229. Just this whole Khabib-Conor fight. I remember UFC 225, and I'm sure you remember as well, the way that played out with Khabib. It almost seemed like him and Conor were destined to fight. The awesome promo afterwards, UFC, give me your lightweight chicken. And people were pretty frustrated at the time that it didn't happen. But looking back at it, the fact that Khabib in that meantime was able to become the champion, get some dominant wins, Conor sort of got a bit of a rest, his star power grew, and then of course even the Dolly incident, and now this fight sort of, everything pointing to the fact that it's going to be the biggest fight of all time. Do you think it's almost the best thing that could have happened that fight didn't happen somewhere after UFC 205, the fact that we've had to wait for so long because, it's that much bigger now?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough question to answer because I've looked at like the last 2 years, and it was fun watching Conor box Floyd. I mean, I had a pretty low level of expectations as to first off, did he have a chance to win the fight? I mean, I did not think he did. And then second of all, just looking good. I wasn't sure. I thought it all played out fine. Like the fight itself was entertaining, and I thought it was good for both sports, to get that kind of spotlight and to have the world watching for all summer of 2017. So when it all comes down to it, I think that was a positive event, and I'm happy it happened for Conor. Obviously, he made a whole lot of money, which he deserves. But I've also really hated that we haven't been able to see him compete in mixed martial arts over the last 2 years. Like this guy, there's a reason why he was the biggest star in the sport at the time he walked away and then did the boxing match with Floyd. And that's because he's very talented. He's a special individual in this sport. And so to miss out on 2 years of his career from an MMA sense has kind of sucked. So on one hand, I want to answer your question with no. I mean, it would have been better if we could have seen this fight a long time ago. And maybe we would have seen the Diaz trilogy by now. Maybe we would have seen Tony Ferguson. Maybe we would have seen him move up to welterweight. Like maybe we would have seen a whole lot of things with Conor McGregor. But based on, how you described it, yeah, I think the fight is bigger now. I think obviously Conor coming off of a fight against Floyd Mayweather in which the world was watching, his star power is bigger. The Dolly incident adds a whole lot to it. So yeah, as far as just from eyeballs watching and how big it feels, it does feel bigger now than I think it would have even back then when he was coming off of the Alvarez win.
What a great answer. Guys, make sure to follow Brett on Twitter at Okamoto ESPN. Just quickly, as we wrap up, Brett, you got some big stuff coming up for UFC 228 for ESPN. We love your coverage. You do such a great job. Tell us, what are a couple of things fans can look out for coming out next week?
Well, I'm lucky because Darren Till came out to my hometown. He's training at the UFC PI, which is like a 5-minute drive from my house. So I've asked, his team if I could spend a day with them, and they've said yes. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to be doing that next week. And so next week, before the fight comes out, my piece will be coming out on that experience. And we've just been doing a lot of fun stuff at ESPN. If you go to ESPN Plus, we got pre-fight shows and post-fight shows around the major pay-per-views. I'm backstage interviewing guys. Ariel Helwani, Chael Sonnen, they do a lot of the desk work up there. So, yeah, get an ESPN Plus subscription. Go to ESPN.com, and you'll find all of our stuff around the big fights. I think that's what we do the best.
It's exciting times. The sport is moving to ESPN, and guys, make sure to check out Brett's amazing coverage. Brett, thank you so much for your time. We appreciated your time, and I liked the screensaver. It's gone now. It's some kind of futuristic screensaver now, and we can't wait to see your coverage next week. Thanks again.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Hey, this is Tony Ferguson, and you guys listen to Submission Radio. Keep tuning in, guys.
All right, guys. Our next guest is set to face Francis Ngannou in a very intriguing rematch on November 25th at UFC China. The man who was coming off a brutal destruction of Alistair Overeem and arguably should be fighting for the UFC heavyweight title right now. Curtis Razor Blaydes, welcome back to Submission Radio. How are you today, man?
I'm good, man. How are you guys?
Very good, Curtis. So the last time we heard from you, you were calling out Stipe for a fight, and now it's you versus Francis Ngannou. I'm just wondering, what exactly happened? And from your understanding, why didn't this Stipe fight sort of come together?
I think he used the same logic that was used by DC in his camp. I'm not a big enough name, so I don't bring in the big money, and the chances of losing are 50-50. So I guess the risk isn't worth the reward, I guess.
Wow. Did you ever speak to Stipe about that? Because I know you guys had a bit of a relationship in the past. You trained together. You never got that answer from him?
No, I would never put a guy on the spot like that and just hit him up like, hey, how come we didn't fight? I mean, obviously, his camp, his head coach, his agent, it didn't agree it was a good idea, and that's fine. I understand. I got Ngannou now, which is almost in a way better because, I mean, I've always wanted a redemption. It hurts having a loss on your record. I mean, everyone has a loss, but the first loss is always the worst one. So I really like to get that one back and now I have the opportunity.
And with that fight, was it something that you guys were looking at, or did the UFC approach you with Francis, or did Francis ask for the fight specifically? How did it come together?
I was approached by the UFC, and they asked me if I wanted to do it. I said, yeah.
I imagine this is sort of something that's been a long time coming. How long have you sort of been envisioning fighting Francis Ngannou for the second time and having this opportunity to avenge that loss?
I visualized this happening on the flight back from when we had fought in Croatia on the flight back. That's what I was visualizing. I knew I'd get an opportunity to run it back because I knew I'd be around and I knew he'd be around. I knew we'd both be highly ranked. So I knew it'd be pretty much inevitable.
We were rewatching that fight the other day, and we saw just how badly you wanted to keep fighting, even though the doctor sort of stopped the fight. How difficult was it for you to sort of lose like that?
Like I said, it hurt. Like, to lose anyway, a decision, knockout, an injury, whatever, you know. But yeah, to lose like that, I don't know. It didn't seem right to me in the moment. I felt like my eye wasn't that bad. I know it looked bad, but it didn't hurt as much as I think people probably imagined it. And I felt I was good to go. I don't know. I thought I deserved one more round. But in the past now, I've moved on.
Looking back at your career and obviously the success that you've had recently, do you think it's almost a blessing in disguise that you sort of got that loss earlier on? Do you feel like it sort of motivated you more or sort of taught you something that you hadn't experienced before, sort of going through that experience?
Well, yeah, I mean, when you lose, you have to find a way to take something out of it, something that you can use. And what I got out of it was I needed better striking. So I knew I probably wasn't going to get that in the Chicago area. That's where I lived before I moved here to Denver. So I knew I'd have to move. I knew I'd have to find a new gym. And it's a blessing that I was able to connect with the guys here at the Team Elevation. And it's been great.
There you go. So I guess he's a guy who's been under a lot of scrutiny recently for his last fight. What did you think of the Francis Ngannou that you saw in there last time around against Derrick Lewis?
He looked very hesitant, very unsure of himself. He looked like he didn't want to expend too much energy because he was too worried about having cardio issues like he did his last fight. I think that was the biggest thing that was in his head. He didn't want to gas out again. But you can't go into a fight with that mindset. You got to believe in your training and your conditioning and just go out there and execute the game plan. So he just didn't look like his usual aggressive self.
It's interesting because we were talking about the fact that you got your loss against him early and you sort of switched some stuff around. Do you think him being so successful and never really losing and experiencing a loss until he was sort of on that main stage and now everyone has massive expectations from him, do you think that sort of worked out to be a negative for him in his sort of run? That's
exactly what I think. I think he never had to rely on anything else. He got away with being a one-punch KO artist, which, hey, it did work for him, but it did get him, got him a lot of money. So you can't really blame him. But if you want to be around for a while, you got to always be adding tools into your tool belt. And I think he neglected that. And I think, it's come back to bite him in the ass.
And I think that's sort of one of the interesting things about this fight. You've got yourself who's sort of, you turned the corner a while ago and you've been steadily improving, whereas Ngannou's only recently had this loss and he's sort of trying to pick himself back up. I guess which Ngannou are you expecting when the two of you fight in Beijing, China? Are you expecting the one that fought Derrick Lewis or the one that you fought against back in 2016?
We don't know, but it doesn't matter because my game plan, it works for every style, every body type, just anyone. But my game plan is always using my boxing, using my footwork, getting inside and getting on top. So whether he's aggressive or if he's counter striker, doesn't matter. I've had success against both styles.
We saw on Instagram when you posted the picture of you and Francis, you put the hashtag Suplex City. Are you expecting to hit some suplexes on Francis in this one?
Yeah. I mean, I always expect it, but I definitely expected this fight.
Gotta ask though, Suplex City, that's Brock Lesnar's sort of phrase that he's had in the WWE for a while. Was that a subtle reference to Brock Lesnar by any chance?
No, I've been using it for years. I've been doing suplexes for years.
It's interesting. It's almost like maybe Brock Lesnar stole it from you. Who knows? What do you feel like the win over Stipe would have made for your case for a title shot? Do you think that if you beat Francis, that case gets stronger, or do you think that you might still have to fight 1 or 2 fights before you get to the title shot?
To answer your first question, had I fought and beat Stipe, the heavyweight with the most title defenses, I think, yes, my argument would have been solidified, and I would have been automatically the next one in line. Beating Ngannou, does it improve my argument? I think so. Just because a win's a win. Like, I have to beat whoever they give me, so you can't punish me for beating the guy on the 2-fight losing streak. That's what they gave me. So, and this is a UFC, so you never know. I may have to fight one more time. I may fight 2 more times. Who knows? I used to think about that, like my trajectory and who's next and what's next, but all it does is you end up feeling disappointed and disrespected when it doesn't happen. And I don't want to be walking around feeling like I'm disrespected. So I don't have any expectations for after this fight. Besides winning, I don't have any expectations on what's next. Who knows?
It's interesting that you mentioned that. Did you find that's how you felt after your big win down at UFC Perth, when sort of the UFC overlooked you?
I mean, I still feel disrespected that Brock Lesnar gets to jump in out of the blue. He's not even ranked. He's not even officially on the roster, and he gets to have a title fight scheduled. He hasn't proven himself. So, yeah, that's what makes me feel disrespected. But like I said, I only feel that way because I expected the title after this. I mean, after the last fight. So I'm just not going to I'm not going to do that again to myself. Like, I'm just going to go out there and win, and whatever happens, happens. As long as I get a paycheck, can't really be mad.
It's interesting because the way you beat Alistair Overeem, I mean, not only his ranking, but the way you put an exclamation point on that win, I think you had every right to expect that you'd be next in line for a title. Did you ever get a chance to speak to the UFC and sort of clear the air regarding that whole situation? Ask them, and get a straight answer from them about that Brock Lesnar situation?
No, but I mean, it's obvious. We're all adults. They want money. I get it. Want money. I'm not money yet. So it is what it is.
How do you see that fight sort of playing out, DC versus Brock Lesnar? Do you give Brock sort of any chance here?
No, none whatsoever. I don't even view Brock as a legitimate MMA fighter.
Even, I mean, I guess even despite holding the belt previously, you still don't see him. No? Where does he sort of, I guess, rank for you as far as fighters go?
He was juiced to the gills when he fought in the early to mid 2000s. So I don't respect juice heads.
It's interesting because I feel like you're almost sort of going to be competing with the winner of Derrick Lewis and Volkov for the next title shot. are you going to keep a close eye on that fight because of their sort of place in the rankings and the current win streaks involved going in there?
I mean, I watch all fights, so yeah, I was gonna watch regardless. Yeah.
What do you think about the placing of your fight, being that it's in China? I almost feel like it's a double-edged sword because on one hand, Lewis and Volkov, they're in this huge card that everyone's going to watch, whereas your one's on a fight night. But at the same time, you've got your own main event where the attention's sort of going to be more on you, and it is sort of on the other side of the world. How do you feel about all that?
Happy. It'd be a main event. Always wanted to do that, so can't complain about that. And never been to China, probably. So realistically, I doubt I ever would have gone out there on my own. So it's cool to get to go out there, experience the culture, and also get paid to go out there and do what I do anyway. So I feel good about it. I'm happy I get to fight. Happy I get to get redemption. Happy I get to be in main event. Happy I get to end the year with a fight. It's always good to end the year with a fight. You get to enjoy the holidays, you know?
And I guess you end the year with a big bang, right? You go over to China, put on a big statement, and avenge the loss against Ngannou, right?
Yeah.
I was going to say, this whole situation, you spoke recently about the squeaky wheel gets the grease, which makes a lot of sense. How much has this changed, this whole Brock Lesnar situation? How much has this changed the way that you're going to promote your fights and yourself in the future?
I'm just going to have a more... I was trying to be like Mr. Chill, Mr. Oh, it doesn't bother me. That's okay. I'm gonna voice my opinions. Like if I feel disrespected or if I feel like I deserve something, anything, I'm gonna speak up. Everyone else is doing it, and then they're not being. There's no punishment, so why not?
I was just going to say, GSP was here recently. We were in Australia. We were sort of talking to him about, whether MMA is a sport, whether MMA is sort of entertainment. And I feel like it's always kind of hanging somewhere in the balance. Obviously, the athletes, there is zero doubt about their abilities and the hard work, but just the way that things go with this Brock Lesnar situation. I guess aside from the way you're going to promote yourself, what's your biggest takeaway from this whole situation, and the way you view the sport of MMA?
That this isn't a sport. It's not a sport like the NFL or the NBA or MLB or NHL or any other major sports league in the world. Because in any of those leagues, you can't just be a guy off the street and just take a guy's spot on the roster because you're famous. That would be like if Will Smith was like, "Yo, I really like the Lakers. I could go to the Lakers."
Yeah,
like, do that. So this isn't a sport, but it does require athleticism to get the most out of it. So, like you said, I'm in the middle. It's but I'm leaning more towards entertainment. I don't think skill matters quite as much as marketability.
Well, Curtis, we really appreciate the time. Before we let you go, we want to quickly get a couple of predictions from you. The first one, a fun prediction. We know you like to watch the fights. There's a massive fight coming up, UFC 229, with Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Conor McGregor. I want to get your take on this one. If you had to sort of bet on this, how do you see this one playing out? Who's the winner for you in this one?
I go with Khabib. It's a lot easier for him to take down McGregor and smash him than it is for McGregor to effectively strike without getting taken down.
Do you see a scenario where Khabib somehow finishes Conor McGregor, or do you think this is going to be sort of all 5 rounds where it's just dominating and dominating and dominating?
I mean, the more I fight, the more I'm like, predictions are pointless because we don't know if Khabib is thinking. He may not be looking for the finish. He may be fine with just getting a win each round. We don't. So it's I just got Khabib winning. Don't know how, but I see him winning.
You've got a feeling. Well, the most important prediction is, of course, you versus Francis Ngannou on November 20th. I know you don't love the whole prediction thing, but if you had to sort of think about the way it ends, is there a scenario that pops into your mind?
Grown and pound, TKO, most likely. It won't be a head kick. It won't be anything wild. It'll be what I do best.
Well, there you go, guys. Curtis Blaydes takes on Francis Ngannou on November 25th. It's going to be the 26th here in Australia and New Zealand. Beijing, China. Don't forget to follow the man on Twitter and Instagram at RazorBlades265. Curtis, we really wish you the best, man. We hope this win gets you to that title shot. You absolutely deserve it, and thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you guys having me on the show.
This is TJ Dillashaw, UFC champ. Listen to Submission Radio.
All right, guys. Our next guest is the real-life Karate Kid, one of the most creative strikers in the UFC with wins over Rory McDonald, Johnny Hendricks, Jake Ellenberger, Jorge Masvidal, and Robert Whittaker. He now joins us on the program. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, welcome back to Submission Radio. And look at you. You're behind the wheel. Looks like you're going for a bit of a cruise.
Yeah, man. You know, I'm glad to be on. Love chatting with you guys. I literally just got done training. So got some training, got some physical therapy on my knee today, and did some strength conditioning with my coach. So getting back in the swing of things, man.
Nice. Well, good. We want to know that Wonderboy Thompson is around the corner from his return. We'll talk about all of that in a moment, but just quickly, the most important question, something we've wanted to ask you for a while. Have you watched the YouTube Red series Cobra Kai yet?
Oh, dude, I love that show, and they're coming out with another season.
Yes.
Oh.
They're coming out with another season. I'm super excited about it. I love the whole 80s vibe that it has. You know, it brings back the memories of the first Karate Kid, you know? So, yeah, man, it's like, it's kind of like a switching roles. Like they're both kind of good guys now. You kind of get in the mindset of what his thoughts were back when he was in high school, and how his instructor kind of taught him kind of tough, you know, that tough love type deal, and that's how he's doing with his students. Have you seen it yet?
We've been addicted to it. We binge watch that show. What a great program. If you had to kind of look at the UFC, who do you think would be the Daniel LaRusso and the Johnny Lawrence of the UFC? If you sort of had to pick one, anyone stand out to you?
Shoot, dude. I would say like Sage Northcutt as just with looks wise, personality wise, I think he would be the Karate Kid. Yeah. But look wise, he looked like, you know, he would be, you know, Cobra Kai. He looks like he would be, you know, just with looks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Shoot, but nobody really pops, man. What about you guys?
Johnny Lawrence.
I feel like he'd be a good for the Karate Kid in the movie, but
I think Covington is
Covington would
Johnny
be
Lawrence. Yeah.
Chael Sonnen maybe.
I was gonna say like Nate Diaz
yes.
maybe, but I think you hit the nail on the head with Covington. I think that's probably the best one.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, do you know when the second season's coming out?
We're not sure, but we were hoping you'd be a part of it. Has anyone reached out to you to maybe be a part of that season? You'd be perfect.
Nothing yet. I would love to. You know, I would love to. Just did a pretty cool commercial with TJ Dillashaw with the Van Heusen. I don't know if you guys saw that commercial at all, but it was pretty cool for their flex suits. They have these flex suits. We did a TV commercial for them. If you go to my Instagram, Wonderboy MMA, I've got it on there. Pretty cool fight scenes, man. So, hey, you know, maybe lead to something a little bit bigger. Make it a leading role in the next Cobra Kai. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, we were just about to talk to you about that ad because it looks awesome. You're doing your kicks and you're flying through the air in the suits. It kind of reminds me of the old school Chuck Norris kicking pants. Do you remember those ones?
Yeah.
And I thought
I
that.
had a pair of those, man.
Did you?
Yes. My dad had a pair of those. Those were it, man. Like those are the first jeans that actually stretched. They were the first of its kind, you know? It was like, you know, the technology in those jeans like rivaled everything else at the time. And now everything stretches. Like all the jeans stretch now. Everybody wears skinny jeans anyway. They're flexible. Well, it was Chuck Norris stretchy pants that were the first.
I feel like Chuck Norris doesn't get the credibility that he deserves in the fashion world because he's pretty much to thank for the stretchy jeans right now. But you mentioned that you and TJ Dillashaw did a pretty cool ad together. We also saw you were taking selfies with Miss Universe during some shoots as well. What other sort of highlights have you had during your downtime? And how was Miss Universe? Did you teach her a few flying head kicks?
I wish I could have. We were actually on the same set. We had a photo shoot. I modeled for IMG, which is kind of crazy. You know, me being like, I'll be 36 in February. So,
wow.
Which is crazy. You know, a lot of these guys are just young studs. You know what I mean? They're like 21, 22 years old. But, you know, I don't know what they were going to do with somebody my age. But, hey, I'm along for the ride, right? But, yeah, I was in a photo shoot. And I look over. I'm like, man, that's Miss Universe right there. So I got to meet her. We got to take a picture. She was super awesome. She's Miss South Africa. And very, very sexy, you know, accent. I just had to say that. Hopefully she'll tune in and listen to that. But I think she's dating, which is cool. Which is kind of crap. I posted up a picture of us on social media. And it was like, oh, man, you know, she's hot, blah, blah, blah. Of course, all the MMA fans are asking if I'm banging her. You know what I mean? They weren't even nice about it. They're like, so you're banging her, right? I'm like, dude, chill out, bro.
We'll ask you in a second as well, Steven. No, just kidding.
But then I heard she's dating like Tim Tebow or something like that. So I was kind of disappointed. I'm like, man, you know. But she's a very beautiful lady, man. Very beautiful indeed. So I didn't really have enough time to kind of, you know, hang out too much. But it was fun, man. It was fun. So my downtime has been great, you know, healing up. Going back, I'm at the gym, you know. Sorry, I had covered my camera up.
That's all right.
Just working on, you know, different stuff, trying to add on to my game, you know, and trying to hopefully next time I step out in the octagon, I'll be surprising some people with some different stuff. You know, everybody knows that I'm known for my stand-up, but working a lot on my offensive wrestling instead of my defensive wrestling. So, you know, next time I step out in the octagon, I want my opponents to know that I have that as well. Because I think of right now, there's a lot of guys that, you know, most everybody in my division knows for a fact I'm going to try and keep it standing. I have this wrestling that I've been working on for the longest time, but I very rarely use it. I think last time I really used my wrestling was, I think, Jake Ellenberger, but also Chris Clements. I took him down 2 or 3 times in the fight. But then, you know, after the fight, there was a lot of athletes. They said, you know, that was a good fight. You use your wrestling a lot, but, you know, remember what got you here. You know, I was like, you know, it was my striking, you know, knocking dudes out. They're like, well, you know, make sure you're not, you know, you're going out there wrestling just to wrestle, you know, do what you do best. So I went back and I just kind of focused more on my striking, still working my wrestling, but that's kind of mostly what everybody's seen since I've stepped in the octagon. But I want to show my wrestling. I really do. I want my opponent, especially at the top of the game, to not only be worried about the striking, you know what I mean? That there is wrestling there. So I've been working on that, you know, obviously drilling. I ended up tearing my MCL the last fight, and for some reason, it's been giving me a hard time. I've had 4 knee surgeries on that knee, so it's been giving me a hard time this past few months. But it's slowly, the swelling still, you know, after a workout, it swells up, but it's slowly going back to normal. So I just got to be careful on it.
I can't wait to see this new NCAA version of Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. But I got to ask, when did this sort of come into your mind that you need to focus more on your wrestling, and how much of it had to do with, I guess, the result of the Darren Till fight?
I think the majority of it was that. You know, I ended up taking Darren Till, taking him down pretty easily in I think it was the 4th round, maybe 5th round, I'm not sure. But it was an easy takedown. He got up very well. But during the fight, I wasn't able to move a whole lot. I guess as you can tell, I wasn't able to use my movement too well because of the torn MCL. My knee felt really unstable in that fight. And I felt, you know, I went back after the fight. And I was like, you know what? If I use my wrestling a little bit more, I think maybe would have changed the outcome. I thought I won the fight anyway. But, you know, just to throw another element out there for these guys to think about, you know, instead of just my striking. And I felt like I could have taken him down more. I don't know why I didn't, because he literally stood right in front of me. He gave me his hips up every time I threw a punch. I would hit him 1 or 2 times, but he would lean way back, and his hips are right there, you know. And most of the time when I spar, I focus on keeping it standing. So I do use my wrestling when I spar. I simulate a lot of my teammates' opponents, and I use my wrestling a lot. But when it usually comes down to my training camps, I try and keep it standing. So just working on that mostly. Just when I am sparring, to try and get 1 or 2 or 3 takedowns in. And I think because if it's there, why not take it? Why not take him down? That just gives him something else in the octagon to think about. I may keep the fight standing in the first round. In the second round, I get you down. I take you down. What you going to think about? What am I going to do the third round? That's what I want these guys to think. What's this guy going to do? So, I'm saying it to you because I feel confident. It really doesn't matter if my opponents know or not, because I can still keep it standing, or I can take it to the ground. Which one am I going to do, guys? I have no idea.
that whole
after that fight, it did kind of like, it got me thinking.
That whole situation was pretty crazy for you because you went all the way over there. You were dealing with not being 100%, and also Darren missed weight. Looking back on it, I mean, you took the fight, and so many people in the MMA community have so much respect for you taking on Darren to begin with, accepting the fight, because a lot of people believe that you could have gotten a bigger name, and then going all the way over to him, and then him missing weight, and then you taking that fight, and then you being so gracious in defeat. But looking at that fight, do you think he had much of a sort of advantage of the fact that he was a little bit over in weight going in there against you?
You know what? He most of the guys that I fight in the UFC, when I hit them or he was a bigger body than what I'm used to. He wasn't the strongest opponent. Tyron's definitely stronger. But he was a bigger body than what I was used to in the octagon. But I spar guys who fight 205. My buddy Carl Reed, he's a 205er, man. He walks around about 230, 240, and I spar with him on a regular basis. So I don't think that it was just a whole scheme of things that just kind of messed with you a little bit. I'm not the type of guy that be throwing out excuses or anything. Fighting over there in his territory, for one, fighting a guy way lower ranked than you, which I didn't want to take in the first place. Because of that, going to his hometown to do so. Then the guy doesn't make weight, so the fight's off. No. Then the fight's on. No, and then it's back off again. That's like, man, I was like, man, what's going on? So that kind of messed with you a little bit, but I try and shut that out. It's like, listen, I want to treat this as I am going to fight this guy, so I got to stay focused. But in the background, you're hearing all this mess. It was a fiasco. And then he's fighting for the title. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I was going to ask you, going through all that, I mean, you're probably the nicest guy in the game, and you've always been so gracious to us and to all the fans and to all the opponents. But do you have any regrets with not pulling the plug on that one at some point? Like, I believe we've spoken to many fighters, and they'd say, if a fighter's overweight, we're not fighting him, let alone everything that you had to go through in that ordeal, and especially with a guy who's ranked lower than you.
Yeah, man. When I got over there and all that happened, I'm a fighter, and man, I'm gonna do this as long as my body will let me. And the money's just the bonus. Like, I could stop fighting right now and just do what I love to do, and that's teaching. I just like the competition. I like to go out there and impose. You try to impose your will on somebody else. It's the ultimate sport. I mean, when you think about it, you get all these other athletes, football players, baseball players, basketball players. They're huge fans of MMA. That's something they want to do, but they can't do it. It's like the ultimate sport. And when it comes down to it, if I, in the primal days, if I can take what you have, if I can beat you, I can take everything you got. You know what I mean? So it's like the ultimate thing. It's what the gladiators did back in the day, man. Like, if I can beat you, if I can, beat you down and kill you, I can take whatever you got. And like these other athletes, they kind of see it as this is the manliest manly sport. Basketball is not, football is not. It's fighting, and you can tell because all these other fans are huge athletes of it. And they, a lot of these guys, they want to be that fighter. They want to be a fighter, So I do it for that reason, for the honor and for the glory. And I went out there, and even though this guy didn't make weight, I went through a, 6 to 8 week training camp. And I had people that spent their money, flying over there to watch, to support me. So, I didn't want to let them down. I didn't want to let the fans in Liverpool down. Of course, they booed me walking out, but they were also hyping me as they were booing me, They're like, boo, give me a high five, man. Like, all right. And, the fans were great. I mean, leading up to the fight, I was there for a week before the fight. Everybody was awesome, man. I knew the day of the fight they were going to be for till. But, I wanted to go out there and fight, man, and see what I had. Didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. Got injured in the first round, and now I'm still, healing up from it. And that's one thing that I've had 4 knee surgeries on my left. I torn every ligament in my left leg. And it was like when I was out there fighting, that's just another thing that you shouldn't be thinking about when you're out there, is a dang hurt freaking knee. And I was afraid if I got hit with another side kick that it would just be gone. And there goes my career. It'd be over. So I had to kind of play it safe a little bit and not move around as much, but kind of took away a lot of my combinations. And, that's what I'm known for is my movement, So, it is what it is. And you got to go back and just improve, man. That's all you can do. And I think that's what, if you have that mindset, that keeps you at the top of the game, A lot of these guys that get up there at the top, they just kind of plateau. They're really not thinking about how they're improving, because they're already at the top. So you see a lot of these guys just kind of drop to the wayside, and I don't want to be that guy.
Best karate teacher ever. I wish you were my karate teacher back in the day. Let me quickly ask you this. You just mentioned, you just made a bit of a noise when you said, Darren Till's got the next title shot. There has been some commotion around this because he didn't really make weight for your fight, and now he's got the title shot, and there's questions around the fact whether he's even going to make weight for this fight. What was your reaction when you first saw that Darren Till was fighting for the title, and do you think he deserves the title shot?
Do I think he deserves? No, I really don't. This is a professional sport. And making weight is part of the job. You agreed to make the weight. I mean, it's like the, Robert Whittaker and Yoel Romero. If you don't make weight, you don't fight for the title. I think it should be the same. If you don't make weight, you don't move up the rankings. It's part of the job. You signed a contract to be that weight. And by God, you should make it. You should make it. And he was bragging about it weeks before the fight, how he's this massive 170, how the UFC should be allowing him to fight, which made him look even worse because he didn't make weight, and that was 171. I mean, how was he going to make 170? And so that, yeah, man, I would definitely be questioning that as a fan, but also as for the UFC. So for him to be fighting for the title, man, it's like they're wondering why people aren't making weight because there's no consequences. Yeah, sure. I mean, he wasn't getting paid much for that fight, so of course he won't make weight, give 20 or 30% of the purse or whatever it was to move up the rankings. So now, I mean, he's probably getting crazy money to fight that. So I bet you it was worth it, And the UFC is like, why are these guys making weight? Because there's no consequences. No real consequences. A lot of these people will give them 30% to move up the rankings because their next fight will be more money. It's just a sacrifice at the moment to, for a bigger gain later on.
I wanted to ask you, just because you have fought both of them, both Woodley and Till, how do you see that fight going? Obviously, with the assumption that Darren Till does make weight, if he does make weight for this fight.
If he does make weight, Tyron's a very powerful, very strong athlete, very explosive. Darren Till's a big-bodied guy and he's very, very aggressive. It could go both ways. I can give you the positives for both guys. I mean, Darren Till, he's a big body, like I said. So he's very heavy and he's aggressive. Tyron, he doesn't do well against those aggressive guys, especially who are just kind of in their face. And Darren's very long. I think it's for fear of Tyron, gassing out maybe. That's why he doesn't like. I guess that's why he doesn't do well against those aggressive guys. So Darren Till definitely has the body, the mass to really push Tyron and tire him out. But on the other hand, Tyron Woodley's a very intelligent guy. He is very cerebral when it comes to breaking down fighters. So he's not going to be stupid. Darren Till, he gives up his hips. Every time you throw a punch, he leans way back and his hips are there. I think Tyron's going to use that right hand. If he doesn't knock him out with it, he's going to set it up to take him down. And he's got the power to be able to hold Darren down. Even though Darren Till is showing photos on his Instagram, as people were posting up that he's got some of the best jiu-jitsu guys in the world, helping him out. But this close to fight time, it's not going to make a difference. You may get picked up little tiny stuff here and there, but you should be, to really make a difference, you'll have to work with these guys for like a year, for months on end to actually to see some results of that. But I think he's just posting stuff up like that to show Tyron that, I got this world class grappler, I dare you to take me down. But I don't think it's going to make a difference. I think man, it's to be honest with you, this is a very difficult match to pick. Yeah, you got me thinking, man, because I don't know. I mean, Tyron's right hand is there just to put you away. He's got that, like I said, one hitter quitter power, just knock you out with it, as you've seen him do in the past. But Darren Till is a very hungry fighter. So I'm excited, man. I will be there, sitting in front of my TV, watching away. I hear if it doesn't make weight, Tyron's saying that he'll fight till if he doesn't make weight. But I know Usman is going to be there for backup. I know Usman's going to be there for backup. So we'll see what happens, man. I'm very interested on how this is going to go down. If he doesn't make weight, not surprised. It's the second time missing weight with me. So we'll see. I was 171, not even 170. So.
It's fascinating. We want to talk about what's next for you, Stephen, but just quickly, while we're getting fun predictions for grapplers versus strikers, UFC 229 right around the corner. Who do you have for the big blockbuster between Conor McGregor and Khabib? Have you picked someone for that one?
No, I have not. I hate predictions.
It's a tough one. This is probably as tough as it gets.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, when you look at it and you look at each fighter, and you kind of look at some of their fights in the past, Khabib has been very consistent with the way he fights and the way he's been smashing dudes. Very good strikers as well. Edmund Barbosa, I mean, he just grinded him out. He's one of the best in the 155 division striking wise. He's been very consistent. Conor McGregor, he's not guys out, obviously, but he doesn't do very well with that aggressive of wrestlers. I mean, when you saw against Chad Mendez was like a 2 weeks notice. So that guy wasn't in shape. He faded at the end and Conor knocked him out. Khabib, guaranteed he's coming in shape. And not only that, he's a very, very big 155er. I hear that he walks around about 200 pounds. He fights at 155. It's ridiculous. Kevin Lee's the same, 155er. He walks around about 200 pounds is what I hear. I don't know if it's true or not. That's just a rumor. So, if you look at it, that line kind of leans a little bit towards Khabib just because his consistency with his grappling and the way he's been treating dudes, and he's just relentless. His cardio is through the roof. But then you think everybody who should have beat Conor has been knocked out. He knocked out, So I think if Conor touches him with that left hand, you don't know what's going to happen. But that's the thing. Nate Diaz is not the best grappler in the 155 division, but he submitted him. So, that needle's kind of leaning a little bit towards Khabib to me. I would love to see Conor go out there and do work. Like let's go, Conor. But at the same time, like Khabib, man, he's just he's an animal.
As probably one of the premier strikers in the UFC, how do you rate McGregor's striking when you watch him do his thing? Is he right up there for you?
Oh yeah, top. I mean, he's definitely probably one of the best strikers. And it's not because, you know, Evan Barbosa has got great striking. He's very explosive, very fast, man, and just like amazing technique. But McGregor, you can see when he's out there, he's a very calm fighter, very calm. When you watch Barbosa, he's very, you know, kind of jittery at sometimes. I think he wears himself out because he's that way. He's very tense. Connor's very relaxed. So you can tell he's not really thinking, but his reaction time is money. He's got awesome reaction time and pinpoint accuracy with his left hand. You know, when he fought Jose Aldo, he used his his movement won him that fight. His movement did. He went out there and, you know, he was like throwing a lot of feints. He was, you know, he would move in and out, luring, you know, Jose Aldo to throw that backhand, and he did. He just fell right into his game. He leaned a little too far, which is what McGregor wanted, and knocked him out. And he did that with his movement. If you go back and watch that fight, it was very, very cool, very intelligent fight.
We obviously got to talk about yourself, man, because there are rumors swirling that Robbie Lawler potentially is the next guy that you'll be facing, that apparently the UFC are targeting you versus Robbie Lawler on their first ESPN card. But we saw that apparently you claim that those reports are far from true. So I guess, did the UFC approach you with this fight, and where exactly is it at the moment?
Well, I mean, it was definitely talked about. It was definitely talked about. And this has been the fight I've wanted for a while now. I'm a big fan of Robbie. You know, I've watched him in his strike force days, and, you know, just a slugger, bro. And he's always game, man, when he goes out there and just goes. So very exciting fight. I've always wanted to fight him. And one, I wanted to fight him because he was the champion, you know, and he's a good striker. And I love to go out there and face good strikers as well. So just to test mine. So that's definitely the fight I want. But it was talked about, never really gone past that, you know, kind of like going through fighters, you know, what about this guy? What about that guy? I think you and, you know, Robbie Lawler would be a great fight. And I don't know how it even got out there. I mean, it blew up social media, and it got me excited there for a second. Like, I'm like, you know, I'm seeing all this stuff. I was like, dude, is this really happening? You know, what's going on? You know, I was like, heck yeah. But yeah, man, it really, no contracts, nothing, man. And I know he's just had knee surgery, so he may or might not be ready in January. It's kind of up in the air, to be honest with you. I don't know who I'll be fighting next. Could be Robbie, could be Colby, could be RDA. I have no idea, bro. But you know what? I'm ready for whoever. Man. If it's Robbie, if it's Colby, if it's RDA, I don't care, man. I'm excited to get back out there and do it again, you know, just to prove myself, especially after that last fight, it being so close. I've had so many razor close fights, man. Like, dadgummit. So, you know, and the thing is, everybody's looking at me and saying, hey, why don't you go out there and knock out dudes like you used to? I was like, first off, you go out there and do it. You know what I mean? These guys aren't just anybody, man. They're the top guys in the top 10. In the top 5, as a matter of fact, you know what I mean? The top 10, because in the world, these guys are the best in the freaking world. So, you know, it's difficult. These guys are smarter, they're faster, they're, you know, they're world-class level, man. So it is very difficult, but, you know, you can go, I can knock them out like I did everybody, you know, like I did the guys in the past. So, I just got to find the right moment, man. And when you're stepping out there with somebody like that, it's literally that microsecond that makes all the difference. So, yeah, man, I it's cool to think that, you know, 20 years from now, hopefully I'm still alive then, I can tell my grandkids or my kids, be like, you know what? I fought the best guys in the freaking world, you know? Like, I was one of the best fighters in the world, man. That's, you know, not very many people can say that. That's pretty cool, I think. You know, not only that, but then you look at Cormier. He's got 2 freaking belts. It's like, what the heck? You know, I want to be like that guy. And he's what, almost 40?
You know what? I haven't checked his age recently. I think he's either 39 or 40. He's one of them. I think 39 or 40.
So I got plenty of time.
You got plenty of time. Well, you beat Robert Whittaker. He's the middleweight champion, so it's not unrealistic. I was going to say, though, with this timeline for this, it could be Robbie Lawler, RDA, Colby Covington, we don't know, but what is the timeline? You say you're sort of itching to get back in there. They're targeting potentially January. Is January sort of the go time for you, or could you fight early, or are you still sort of recovering?
I would say January would definitely be the time, or maybe early December, around that December, January time, just to make sure everything's right, man, with my knee. Getting that MCL where it needs to be, trying to get the swelling down. Because right now, what happens is after I work out, or sometimes in the middle of a workout, it starts to swell. I'm like, dadgummit, which kind of leads me to believe, is there something else messed up in the knee? Is there a torn meniscus, or is it because they took 40% of my meniscus out the first surgery I had? So is it just arthritis? Is it just the bone on bone that's irritating this thing? But when there's swelling in the joint, the muscles don't fire like they should. So when the joint starts to swell and you start to move it around, and I tweak my knee a little bit, those muscles won't be there to support it, and that's when those major injuries start coming. So I just got to make sure that I got to be smart with my training at the age that I am now, which I'm not. I don't think I'm old at all. I feel like I'm 21. I really do, but I still have to be careful. I got to realize that I am not 21 anymore. So, I got to make sure I warm up correctly. I got to make sure I take care of my body at this point, eating right, taking the right supplements just to make everything work right, And my knee being 100% is at the top of the list right now. Last thing I want to do, take a fight too early, knee's not right, blowing everything out, and I screw my fans out of potential fights, awesome fights in the future. So, man, December, January is what I'm looking at.
Awesome. Well, it's exciting times. As we wrap up, Steven, just got to double check that Baron and Bella, your dogs, won't keep you up all night, because we saw on Instagram, these guys don't mess around when it comes to playing around.
No, man. I've got a Cane Corso, and I've got a Pit Bull, and they're brother sister. Obviously, I got the male is the Cane Corso, the Pit Bull is the female. But let me tell you, man, the female runs the relationship. Golly, she's the one that she growls as if she's transforming into a werewolf. It sounds horrible, like she's getting ready to eat somebody's face. So I'll take them to the dog park, and the dog park would be packed, and they do great with other dogs. But when I show up, everybody packs up their dogs and leaves. So it's like, oh man, nobody wants to play with you. But hey, we got the dog park to ourselves. So It's funny, man. It really is. And they literally are, they're baby dolls, man. They're sweet as can be. As long as you're allowed in my house, you're good to go. If you're not supposed to be in my house, you're not supposed to be there, then you'll probably die, because they do their job very well. They do, man. I actually, when my Cane Corso was about 2 years old, the female next door went into heat. My neighbor had a dog, and he ate a hole in my sheetrock, like the size of me.
Whoa.
His kennel was upstairs in my room. Ate a hole in my sheet. He got out of his kennel. There was a metal crate. He mangled it, got out, ate a hole in my sheetrock to get to this female. So one, that was like, all right, dude, I'm getting you fixed, bro. I'm sorry. I'm taking your balls from you, bro, as much as I don't like it. And two, like, I had some guys show up early one morning to go up there and fix the sheetrock. Well, it was about 7:00 a.m. I had put Baron in my garage, but I didn't close the door all the way, which is a mistake on me. Because as I opened the door, Baron was coming around the corner. But the guys that I had fixed my sheetrock didn't say, hey, we're here to fix your sheetrock. They just walked on in. Like, I'm like, dude. So, one, you're coming to my house. Two, Baron can kind of sense my distress, like, what are you doing? Like, he took off after them, man. And these dudes ran upstairs. And thank goodness I'm fast. I grabbed him by his hips, and he's chomping at their feet. You hear him just biting down. And these dudes run upstairs and lock themselves in my bonus room, man. They were like, just went up there and just hid, man. I was like, I put them off. I was like, guys, that's what you get. Like, when you come to somebody else's house, let me know why you're here. Don't just start coming in my house,
Wow.
Like, oh, man, I'm so sorry, man. we're just in a rush and a hurry. It's like, come on, man. But it scared the crap out of them. It was so freaking funny, man. But yeah, they do their job well, but they're awesome, man. They're awesome. I'll post up some more stuff, so don't worry.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, everybody can check out Instagram and Twitter at Wonderboy MMA. Stephen, thank you so much for your time, especially after a big karate class. We appreciate it. We can't wait to see what happens next. And hopefully that second season of Cobra Kai isn't too far away.
Yes, man. Yes. We got to get back on and chat about that, to be honest. But hopefully we'll find out soon what's happening next, and hopefully we can be back on and chat about it if you're down.
Always, man. It's always an honor to have you on, man. We appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you,
Anytime,
Stephen.
guys.
Have a good
Anytime.
night.
You guys have a good one.
This is Chael Sonnen, and you are listening to Submission Radio.
All right, guys. Our next guest is searching for a dance partner at UFC 229. Currently ranked number 5 in the UFC's lightweight division. You last saw him dominating Edson Barbosa back in April. One of the best dressers in the UFC, the Motown phenom himself, Kevin Lee. Welcome back to Submission Radio. How are you today, man?
Always good to be here. I'm feeling good.
Very nice. Where are you joining us from right now? It looks like your house. Is this a nice little sort of outdoor area you got going on?
Yeah, it's my backyard. Sunny Las Vegas. What can we say? Just got done doing some training earlier, so I like to kick back afterwards. Have a little bit of food, get some stuff done. Enjoying myself, as I say.
Of course. I remember last time you joined us from a sauna, so we were very curious where you were going to join us from. And this is probably one of the nicest sort of backgrounds we've had for a guest in quite a long time. So we appreciate it. You're up there, Kevin Lee. I was going to say...
I'm always trying to do bigger and better, baby.
Yeah, that's it. I was going to say, so you were calling for this Anthony Pettis fight the other week. You were very optimistic when you met with the UFC matchmakers. They seemed to like the idea. Now he's fighting Tony Ferguson. So what exactly happened there? How come they didn't give you Anthony Pettis to fight?
I guess I kind of got it. They were looking for a fight for Tony, and he stole my fight from me. Like that's what it's gonna boil down to. So me and him, we already got some bones to pick. That's gonna be another one added on top of the list. I thought that would have been the right fight to make, even if they didn't put it on that 229 card. I know they were looking for a headliner for that Milwaukee card. What better headliner than me versus Anthony Pettis on that one? But we're going to have to see how this whole thing shakes up now. I think Tony was the X factor in that. I think when I talked to him first, they were of the mind that he wasn't going to be ready, just like everybody else. But I guess he's going to go ahead and rush his recovery in order to stop my shine. So what can I say?
You had an interesting reaction to Justin Gaethje's win over James Vick this past week, and a whole bunch of money-faced emojis. And you tagged Justin. What exactly did you mean by that? Were you impressed at how he was able to put James Vick away?
I was smiling the whole fight. I love that fight. It's way more appealing to me now too. Justin is a mark, and I'm like a lion. Every day I wake up, I just try and look for my next target. I look for my next meal. And right there, Justin showed me himself. So I like that. I like a fight, especially like that, because Justin's a fucking madman. So he's going to bring out the best in me, and he's really going to let me show off for the rest of these guys that already know the business. I'm in a situation right now where I'm having a hard time getting fights because guys know when you sign up to fight me, you signing up for a hard fight. You ain't gonna win that fight. So not a lot of people are signing that line. Justin might just be crazy enough to do it. So like I was all smiles. I'm like, man, all right, I got me a dance partner if anything.
So if you were sort of looking at a list of guys and opponents in your mind of who you might fight next, whereabouts is Justin Gaethje on that list? Is he at the top of that list?
He's about the most secure one. You know what I mean? He's the one that I know for sure we can make it happen. Especially, they've got main event spots that they're trying to fill. Justin, all his fights have been main events. My last couple fights have been main events. So that's a perfect scenario that we can make something happen. But you never know. This is MMA. A lot of these guys fall off in this sport. A lot of things get moved around and changed around. So I'm staying ready regardless. I said originally that I was going to be ready for that 229 card. That's still in the books for me. So we're going to see, especially with them adding Tony and him trying to come back too early on that knee. There might be some moving parts there, but Gaethje, I think Gaethje is the long run and my main target right now.
What about Iaquinta? We heard that apparently the UFC wants you to fight him in the UFC Milwaukee card. Is that true?
you know, the UFC won a lot of things, I guess, you know, and I can sit here and I told myself this a couple of days ago. I'm like, I can sit here and worry myself to death on what they thinking and what they trying to do and what's so-and-so moving about. Really, all I can do is sit back and worry about me. You know, like the main thing is I've got a lot of time left in this game. So the only thing I've been worried about these past couple of weeks is just getting better, just getting stronger. I've been telling them for years, they better catch me while I'm young because I'm still getting better. Like the rest of these dudes, they going to be falling off and I'm still rising up. So I'm just worried about me. If they want to make the Al fight happen, okay, but Al be playing too many games. So, I mean, that's really on him whether he want to accept it or not. If they approach me with it, I'll take it. We'll see. But I'm on the bigger and better, and I'm looking at bigger challenges than that.
So just to clarify, they haven't officially come to you with that fight. They haven't approached you about it yet, or they have already asked you.
No, not officially. You know, the last I heard was me and Pettis being made. That was the last that Pettis heard too. I'm hearing, and you know, Pettis walked in and he walked in with the intention of negotiating a fight towards me, and they hit him with Tony out of nowhere. So I don't even think they know what they're doing yet. You know, I'm kind of in the driver's seat. I'm making these ideas for them, and then they go ahead and take them and run with them. So I'm back in the driver's seat, and I'm gonna see where I take myself.
I want to see where this car ride of Kevin Lee takes you, but I just have to say, as a fan, you and Al going back and forth, it seems like for so long, I feel like it has to lead somewhere. I feel like there has to be a fight somewhere at the end of the rainbow, even though you're looking at big and random things, don't you think?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, and that's definitely one that I got to get back. It'll just come on my terms, and it'll come when I want. You know, I told Al years ago that if he didn't take the fight with me back in this was San Diego, UFC, I think 190 or like one of those fight night cards where I fought 2015. I told him if he didn't take the fight with me then I was gonna pass him up, and then you know, now your boy is the A side. So I don't know. It's gonna come on my terms when I want it to. I like a Justin Gaethje fight. It appeals me a little bit more, that style, dude. Especially I can go out there and really have an exciting fight and not just a one-sided beating. So that kind of appeals to me a little bit more as I get closer and closer with it, and I'm thinking about it more.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned the A side thing because we spoke to Al last week. He didn't like that comment. He didn't like you saying the A side, and he said that he's still your daddy. I mean, I'm assuming that when you guys fight, you'd want to become his daddy, right?
Man, Al know the business. Al know the real deal, and he know that he's talking that, but he really gonna be playing games at the end of the day. When I approached on him fighting me in October on this card, that's when he really got like. You can see he pulled back a lot. He talking about, oh, you want to fight in China and all this instead. I'm like, come on, you either want to fight or you don't. You know, when he took the fight with Gaethje, this last one, you know, he signed the contract and didn't bother showing up. You know, I'm not gonna waste my time with somebody like that. If he got better things to do, then I got better things to do, and that's what's gonna get done. If he's serious about the fight, then he knows the right mediums to approach. It's a lot of different ways. You gotta go through a couple people to get to me. You know, I ain't one of these dudes that's gonna sit here and go back and forth with you on Twitter. I'm working. I got better things to do. I got world championships to win.
You mentioned Justin Gaethje, and you would be an exciting fight. How would you see that fight sort of playing out? We've seen Justin sort of come close to beating some big names, but then sort of his style sort of fails him a little bit. How would you see you and him going down if that did happen?
Yeah, Gaethje is interesting. You know, he's definitely the road into. You can see he's like that border in between the top five and not. And I think you just have to play him smart, and you have to crush him. But then at the end of the day, your heart, you got to have that heart, and it's going to come out, and he's going to bring it up out of you. So I want to fight like that. I want to fight somebody's going to make me fight, just so I can really show the rest of these guys what the real deal is. They already all know. You know, you don't hear none of these guys ever putting my name in their mouth for a reason. They already all know against a fight with somebody like Gaethje who can stay in there, and he can take a beating, and he can keep on going. And he's going to bring your heart up out of you. So a fight like that, especially in a 5-rounder, as a competitor, that'll get me up in the morning.
If you had to sort of compare between him and Al, who do you think is the harder fight for you?
Gaethje for sure is the harder fight. Al's been doing the same things. Al's been out, selling houses and shit over in New York. Go back to doing that, laying out the cookies, sending the text messages and passing out the flyers at his local little grocery store and stuff. See if he can get some more going on with that. He's been more worried about that than actual fighting. He's been more worried about going back and forth on Twitter. Justin been working this whole time. Justin's definitely the harder fight, and that's what appeals to me more. I want the harder fight. This way I've been for my whole career. I always want the biggest challenges possible, and this is no different. Gaethje's going to be the bigger challenge. It's going to wake me up more in the morning. It's going to be the longer road to the top for sure, but I've always taken a long road because that's the better road.
How important was it for you to get onto that UFC 229 card? Because we know with Khabib, there's always issues around weight cutting and what's going to happen. Were you trying to get on that card as a possible backup in case anything fell through on that fight? And are you still going to try and get on that card in that case?
No, I probably won't try and get on the card. I think it's already kind of filled. You know what I mean? Especially with them making that Pettis and Tony fight happening. But I'm still going to be staying ready because, again, now you got 4 of the top lightweights. And 3 of those guys are pretty prone to pulling out. So, let's say I'm gonna stay sharp. I'm always gonna be training anyway. I'm just gonna keep my weight low and stay ready for any moment because this is MMA. You never know what's gonna happen. I match up real well with all those guys, and that's what I'm looking forward to. And that's what I've been calling for a long, long time. It would have been nice to be on that 229 card because they know I would have stole that shine. Tony know it. Everybody know it. That's why he went ahead and took it from me. But hey, look, it's all good over here.
I love the picture of you on Instagram where you're like, I'm starting training camp. Basically, the opponent is unknown, but you start. Are you still in training camp at the moment? I know because if you don't get on 229, that might your fight might be a little bit delayed, but you're still in training camp as of now. Is that the case?
Yeah, I'm still going to be training. I've been doing a lot of my work down at the PI, especially. They've been doing a lot of monitoring on me and a lot of tests, and I'm gonna make sure I stay on top of that and make sure that my body will be ready to go. I'll take a little bit of leeway. Next week is my birthday, so I'm gonna go out, maybe go to Lake Tahoe or something like that and enjoy that. So I'm still gonna be training full time like I always do anyway, but we'll have to see. I'll be ready once October 6th come around. That's for sure. If regardless of what happens, I'm gonna be ready. I'm gonna be showing up to fight.
Let's look at the lightweight landscape a little bit because I feel like your division is absolutely booming. We've never seen lightweight like this before. You've got so many great matchups. What do you think of this Poirier and Nate Diaz fight that's happening at UFC 230 in Madison Square Garden? And if you win your next fight, where does it sort of put you in terms of the next title shot compared to these guys fighting who are looking like they might get the next shot as well?
Yeah, it gets interesting. It's like you said, it's an exciting time to be a part of it too. Because I'm like, I've been sitting back these past couple, really like the past month or two, kind of sitting back, kind of watching how everybody's moving and seeing what's really going on. I'm gonna probably spend some more time doing that, kind of see where the pieces are falling. Because like you said, Diaz and Poirier are out there. I think Diaz probably wins that match. That leaves Diaz and McGregor next. Regardless if McGregor win or lose, like we all know it. It's a money game, you know what I mean? So it's gonna be it's some shakers and movers. I don't know. Like I said, it's a lot of what's good is it's a lot of options. And I'm so young in the game. I'm around this game for a long, long time. So the rest of these gonna be, they got to get it while they can. A dude like Tony, 34, you got to get it while you can. Me, I can sit back a little bit. I can enjoy myself. I can get better and better and better. And then when I do look to take over, because I'm going to hold that for a long time.
Who do you think wins the UFC 229 between Khabib and Conor? I feel like you're a great guy to ask because obviously you being the excellent wrestler that you are, who do you think ends up as the champion after that night's done?
I think Conor probably sleeps him. The more I think about it and the more I get closer to it, Conor probably gonna sleep him. Khabib uses the same interests. He's a monster on top. I'll give him that. Not much of a finisher up there. He got to a spot like with Michael Johnson where he's practically begging Mike, just give up. Like, I don't know how to finish you. Like, just give up for me. So I don't know, as he gets closer, he got to do that round after round after round after round. And somebody like Conor, you walk onto that left hand like how he Khabib like to do, then that's a sleeper right there. So I'm pushing towards more and more. I'm pushing towards Conor, even though I'm not really liking Conor's the matchup for him. So it's a good fight. I mean, the UFC know what they're doing. They put on the right fight because you really don't know who's gonna win that one. But I'm leaning towards Conor.
Well, speaking of Conor, we saw there was a little bit of a situation. You had a bit of a roll with his partner, Dillon Danis. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Apparently, there's something building here, some kind of matchup possibly coming up.
Yeah. So I mean, I came out on I think it was on Ariel's show, and I pretty much said what it was. Conor think Dillon is such this great grappler and all this, and I told him when Dillon was over here, I threw the boy on his head, and he knew it too. So then I guess when word got back to him and Ariel told him, instead of just saying what the real was, he went ahead and challenged me to a $100,000 grappling match. Look, his people, if he's serious, I accept it right away. But his people reached out to mine. I accepted it again. I added the stipulation that we do combat jiu-jitsu. So in case he go for my leg or something, I can slap the shit out of him. It don't even have to be no arena, no nothing. We could just be in a back training room somewhere, with a little video camera. We can set up our phone and throw it up on YouTube, and I take his money from him. But that's very down low on my to-do list. It's starting up high and then it go all the way down to Dillon Danis at some point because I'm a busy man. I got things to do. Yes,
but that's
hands to shake.
That's crazy that they actually reached out. So when you say his people reached out to you, what do you mean by that? Like his management reached out and they wanted to do it at what were they thinking? Where did they want to do it?
I'm not sure. They didn't even get that far. I don't think. His management reached out to mine.
Wow.
So I don't know. I don't even think they got that far, to be honest. I think they thinking of a time and place. I think maybe they went back to him and asked him if we can do combat jiu-jitsu, and then he shut it down. So I don't know. I'm gonna call Dan. I'll hit him up in a few days or so once I figure out what the rest of what I'm doing is going on and really see what we talk about with that. It's nothing to me. I roll every day anyway. I'll go out there and roll with him. I mean, who cares? Like, what's gonna happen? I'm a little. So the fuck what? It'll be $100,000. So I mean, I'm not. Look, it'll be $100,000. So I'm not gonna be all happy about it or nothing. But hey, look, all is fair in love and war. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just out of curiosity, how come you guys were rolling together anyway? Like, is this a regular thing, and was it just a one-time thing, or did you guys roll sort of for a few times over a while?
No, he came up to Drysdale's, over here in Las Vegas. I think he was just here for the week or so, and then it just happened to be one of those things. And look, I mean, I just, look, somebody. That's just how I am. I don't care. We cool and all, but if somebody asks me something, I'm gonna give them the real straight up answer. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna bullshit around, and I'm not gonna doing all this. I'm gonna give you the real of what it was, and it is what it is. Guys get the better of me all the time in training. Hell, there's a couple guys that can say that about me right now. So if they come out and they say that, then it is what it is. If I issue the challenge, then I guess I gotta put my money where my mouth is.
Can you imagine UFC 229 fight week? This thing goes down. It'll be maybe bigger than the second biggest thing in town that weekend. Just quickly, if you guys didn't have this, yeah, think about it. I mean, and then I feel like maybe even a Conor McGregor and Artem Lobov might come by and visit you, Kevin, and then things would get even more interesting. But maybe even then Khabib comes in your corner. This is going to be a whole thing. It's going to be like a WrestleMania match. Just quickly, how would you see that role going between you and Dillon if that did happen? How would you see the outcome of that one?
Like I said, that's why I think we do combat jiu-jitsu. I think it's a good middle ground. He knows he can't take me in MMA. I'm not gonna bullshit. In a straight jiu-jitsu match, he would stand a good chance, especially with the leg lock game. And he's just more acclimated there. He's got a lot more experience. He's done it a lot more. If we do combat jiu-jitsu, it's somewhere in the middle. I think it's most fair. And then it's a toss up there. I mean, I think I mount him and beat the hell out of him. But what can you say? I think I beat him into submission. Let's say that.
Wow, there you go. Kevin, we'll let you go in just a moment, but just quickly, we saw that you met our very own Tuivasa and Tyson Pedro I mean, they're kind of the toast of the town around these parts. What was your impression of those guys when you met them?
You Aussie boys are something different. I mean that in the best way possible.
Sure.
Ty, definitely the next heavyweight champ of the world. The man got it's at a certain point is more than just the punches and kicks. You know what I'm saying? Like he got that heart. He got the fighter in him. Like I really mess with Ty heavy. And you Aussie boys are something different. Like y'all like to party. Y'all like to have fun. Like that was the last night of a full 6-week trip that I took through Asia, on and off airplanes, 7-hour flight, 10-hour flight, 16-hour flight. That was the last day. And I took more damage in that one day than 6 weeks. Ended up missing my flight the next day, having to rebook it and all that. Wild nights. What can you say?
Were Shoeys to blame for this, Kevin?
Absolutely. I mean, they tried to get me to do one. I mean, look, I wasn't about to fuck up my new Adidas. I tell you that.
Well, I know you can't really give us a recount of the whole night, but what would you say was the craziest part of that night? If you had to rebook the planes and change your trip, that's pretty crazy. Any crazy stories from that night?
At one point, we had a bottle of Belvedere that was about, I don't even know if that can fit in this frame right here. About that size. And Pedro just took it right to the head. And I was like, whew. And it was an ungodly amount after we had already been drinking all day. Not only that, we got drunk on wine at the Singapore bit, because Singapore is very nice. Singapore is very classy. It's more like, they drink wine and drink whiskey out there. You know what I mean? Like real not classy. We got wine drunk, and then we went to the club and drank Belvedere for the rest of the night. Summer nights, you know what I mean?
Summer nights. I would have loved to see everyone drinking wine and then Ty's there drinking wine, but out of a shoe. I think that would just sort of be the picture.
He was chugging wine. He was chugging. Let's not say drinking wine. He was chugging wine.
Classic. All right, well, man, we could chat to you for hours, but we'll let you go. We don't want to be too greedy with your time. I feel like we already have been. Don't forget to follow the man on Twitter and Instagram at Motown Phenom. Kevin, we can't wait to see who you get matched up with, man. We hope this training camp goes well. Maybe this Dillon Danis thing comes through. Maybe I'm assuming you're going to be in town for UFC 229 because you live there. So thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it. And good luck with getting a big fight next.
Thank you, my man. You'll be the first to know for sure.
And there you guys go, Kevin Lee on Submission Radio. We love having him on the program. What a great guy. And very interested, Cass, to see who he fights next, man. That Justin Gaethje fight would be pretty crazy. I mean, Al's in contention. Anyone that you sort of want to see him fight next?
I feel like that Al Iaquinta fight, it has to go somewhere because they've been going back and forth for so long. And if you're Kevin Lee, you probably want to get that one back as well. But I feel like that Justin Gaethje fight, that's a sexy fight right there. And I feel like because Gaethje's ranked a little bit higher, I think he's still well below Kevin Lee, but I just think Kevin Lee sort of deserves someone a little bit better. Fun clash of styles. I don't know. Who knows? If I want to believe what Brett Okamoto said, but imagine if Nate Diaz somehow doesn't fight at UFC 230, in comes Kevin Lee against Dustin Poirier. Wouldn't that be a crazy thing to happen?
Yeah, that would be unbelievable. I mean, the division, I keep saying it in every interview, and I know everybody's sick of me saying this, but I mean, lightweight right now. It's so hot. It's so hot right now. It is so hot right now. So it's unbelievable. How many more stars can that division have? It's just unbelievable. The top 10, it's all happening there. So we'll see what happens with Kevin Lee. Cass, as we wrap up a quick Mamma Mia review.
Whoa.
Mamma Mia, here it comes
things
again.
I didn't expect to hear on this show.
That's right. A quick Mamma Mia review. Here it comes again, I think is the name of the movie. I'm not going to fact check Mamma Mia because I'm just too ashamed.
No.
Look, something happens to me when a grown man, almost 30 years old, when I go to the cinema and I watch perfectly choreographed sequences with good music. I get emotional, Cass.
Wow.
So I want to say, again, no fact checking. The chick that played Meryl Streep in this movie, I thought she was quite nice. And I liked watching her dance and sing. But when it comes to the main chick that plays her daughter, again, no fact checking. I I don't like her. She's got big eyes and she annoys me. So
Amanda Seyfried. There you go. I mean, in fact,
That's the one,
she was in
Amanda.
Ted. Yeah, that's the one that we're talking
that
about.
one. That
And
one. Yeah,
Mean
I don't
Girls.
like her. I don't like her. I mean, I don't like her, and I'm not afraid to say it. And her and the Dominic, whatever her surname is, who plays her love interest in it,
Cruz?
Amanda's. He was in the first movie as well.
Dominic Cruz. Yeah.
Dominic Cruz, perhaps. We'll just go with it. Who cares? They had a messy breakup, and then she went off. And this is outside the movie talk right here. They had a messy breakup, and she went outside the relationship. They broke up. Apparently, she stole him away from someone. This is really digging deep.
Wow.
Stole him away from someone when they were shooting the first one. Then they broke up. Then she went off, had a kid with someone else, and then of course, what? The money man comes knocking at the door, and you got a sequel. She's with another dude with a kid. I don't know what's going on with him. He was a Need for Speed. He was terrible. And then they end up together in this movie, and they have kissing scenes and all these other scenes. And I don't know what goes on in that situation, but I can just imagine a husband sitting behind the set, just chewing some gum and staring a cold spotlight into Dominic Cooper's face. So,
He's holding a glass, and then the glass just shatters.
he's gone
all of a
from
sudden.
Cruz to Cooper. I don't know what his surname is, but anyway. I just saw him looking over his shoulder a couple of times during the scenes. Like, is her husband going to kill me or not? I don't know. So that's a fun thing for her daughter to watch. When it comes to the rating, the Timothy Johnson mustache rating, and by the way, Pierce Brosnan, that is a handsome-looking guy. He was walking down Collins Street once, and I just missed him by a second. And
Really?
And I hear great reports about the fact that he's a fantastic dude. He's been with his wife. He could probably get, younger, hotter chicks, but he's hung around. A bit of a Hugh Jackman. He's hung around. And, he's great in this. And Colin Firth. We love Colin Firth. And there's some other guy. He's all right as well. But they get, like, young versions of themselves playing them when they were younger, and it's like they don't look anything like them. And, so I'm not down with that.
GoldenEye was his best work. I feel like there's a reason why people our age love Pierce Brosnan, and it's solely because of GoldenEye. Whether you played the game or just watched the movie,
I was going to say the Nintendo 64 version. I mean, Jesus.
Sublime.
Has there ever been a game that's made a movie like GoldenEye, the game made GoldenEye, the movie? Because I know when I was a kid, I loved it. Now, when I watch it back, I'm like, okay, well, maybe if the game wasn't around, I wouldn't be such a big fan.
What did you do first? Did you play the game first and then watch the movie? Yeah, me too. Yeah, and then I was like, wow, this movie is like so similar to the game. They got it well.
The graphics are so good. I was gonna say that he has some good movies. After the Sunset, I like, with him and Salma Hayek, and he's got that movie. He's got that movie. He does a lot of crap movies now, like The Foreigner and stuff. But he's got that movie, The Thomas Crown Affair, and I always try and watch it, and then I can never sit down and watch it. It's always on my list, and I'm like 2 hours and something. So anyway, when it comes to the Timothy Johnson mustache rating, I'm going to be kind to this one. Actually, I like the fact that there's different movies out there, and I like the fact that people are doing like choreography and singing, and I like ABBA music. Mum used to always put ABBA on in the car as we used to drive around, so I know all this music off by heart. So I'm going to be generous. I'm going to give it 2.5 Timothy Johnson mustaches, and I'm going to say that on Rotten Tomatoes, it's actually got like 80 or 90% on the scale there, and they're saying it's better than the first one. Wow. I have nothing against Meryl Streep, but there's something about not having to stare at her face for 2 hours that makes me happy. So I don't know where that puts me in that kind of conversation.
Maybe because she was so against MMA and said that it's not the arts.
That's it. Yeah. She's got like her neck kind of looks like a frill neck turkey or something sometimes. I don't know. Anyway, overrated? I don't know. 2.5 Timothy Johnson mustache is there. She's terrible in the post. She didn't deserve an Oscar nomination. Anyway, and you guys should check it out if you like choreography and singing. Maybe a movie for those MMA fans that want to sort of have a nice kind of Mother's Day grandmother kind of thing. Don't take your date to it, because I don't know, might send the wrong message. So it's broken up a marriage
that you like Meryl Streep.
Amanda, what's her face, and Dominic, what's his name? So don't put your relationship through that. Wow.
You should have been the guy to write the credits. It's like starring Amanda What's-Her-Face is the main character, and Dominic What's-His-Face is like the side main character.
Yeah, big eyes, just look into yourself. Anyway.
That's two people that won't be on the Submission Radio show for interviews ever. Meryl Streep and Amanda What's-Her-Face.
That's why Joe Rogan gets so many guests. He doesn't do these kinds of things on his show. Anyway. As we wrap up the technique of the week, just a quick reminder to everybody, Tyson Pedro last technique. Check it out. Also, some other Tyson Pedro techniques on the channel. He does an amazing job. And also, Like Asper said, if you want to destroy your opponent, your friends before you start the roll, but when the roll goes down, all's fair in love and roll. Check out the other techniques. Some good stuff there as well.
Dante's Peak. That's another movie that Pierce Brosnan was in. As you were giving your review, I was on his IMDb. I was just like, what other big movies has he done?
He's a hairy guy, but he pulls it off, which, look at Gabriel Gonzaga. It doesn't always work out. Anything else to add, Cass, before I wrap this up?
Tomorrow Never Dies. Another movie.
Tomorrow Never Dies. Neither does Submission Radio. Guys, next week, UFC 228 preview. We'll see you next week. Be safe, and we'll catch you then.